Yeah, your clients are coming in for a workout, but they're actually coming, if you want to keep them long-term, for an experience. We invested in training. We went to Disney and we learned from them. One of the Disney executives in the particular training talked about the stats between both Disney and Knott's Berry Farm. As it turns out, Knott's Berry Farm had twice the rides. In his estimation, the rides were actually even better than the ones at Disney. He listed all these credentials for the favor of Knott's Berry Farm, but then also showcased the revenue and the vacancy rate were way higher than Disney. At any given time during the course of the year, about half of the major hotels' vacancy rate was open. Where in Disneyland, 1% vacancy on every night. You're hearing all these stats about these amazing rides, but then on the flip side, Disney just crushes in terms of revenue and experience, and what's the difference? And his response is, well, Knott's Berry Farm, they don't sell magic. They're just focused just on the rides, and for a long time, it was just focused just on the training. And it's not just the training, it's the whole experience.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast.
Hey there, very excited to tee up today's awesome episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast. And just to give you some backstory, we recently had a live training at our franchise headquarters here at Fit Body Bootcamp in Southern California. And we did a full week training with our new owners. They were super excited to come in, see a live studio, get really all the hands-on foundational training so that way they're set up for success and ready to launch their own fitness businesses. And on the last day, we did a roundtable, which is really giving them the opportunity to share feedback on what worked and the value of the training, but also too, just take the opportunity where I can kind of give them some coaching and guidance on their questions, their comments, their concerns, their fears, all just the natural things that any new business owner goes through when they're about to launch their business. So we wanted to give you some access and make sure that you're around for the ride. So enjoy the episode.
So I guess my kind of question is, kind of just building off, building that buy-in and all that kind of stuff. What were some of the struggles you had initially when you first opened your very first doors?
Yeah.
What were the struggles with building that buy-in and building, I guess, that reputation with the company and stuff?
Reputation with my reputation with HQ or my reputation with the clients? With the clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think it evolved. Humbling myself, I didn't walk into the business having this level of knowledge about what it takes to build a team or what it takes to be successful, including build a team, giving them the value, making sure that they're fully trained in and on board. Also, fully understanding the fact of culture is so important in your retention. I came from the mindset of all right, I got a great fitness result. I want to give that back to Mrs. Jones. And yes, that's very important. But Mrs. Jones, I hate to break it to you, is not joining your Fit Body Bootcamp to shave a second off her 40-yard dash to make the NFL Combine. I was training clients maybe from that perspective because I knew, okay, if I drop 20 pounds of body fat and put 20 pounds of lean muscle, what it did for me, but I was looking at it from a general technical perspective, which is important. But in our business model and our type of clientele, clients come in for the results, but they stay for the relationships in the community. So I didn't even have that paradigm shift until probably 12 months in the business. So the fact that you're walking in from day one with that is just so all I'm trying to say is, I can give you some insights and some of the problems and things I went through. Your lens is going to be just so different than mine. It took me 12 to 18 months to fully oh, culture's important. We probably should do some community events and focus on relationships. I'm embarrassed to say this, I had my coaches not even greeting people at the front desk. Okay, one of my coaches, and I shared this in on-site experience or the dinner, my most credentialed coach of all time, 4-year kinesiology degree, NASM certification, I think multiple ones. He had all the letters behind his name. Master's degree in kinesiology, good human being, just not good with people. He would literally be on his cell phone in the corner before a session started. As soon as the session started, then he'd get on he didn't have a mic at the time, and then he'd start training, okay? But the worst part about it is I did not do anything about that. I didn't even have the foresight to coach him in a better way, okay? And this is back when we first started. This is a decade ago. But I just want to kind of give you some insight. These are the things that I had to discover and then uncover and then realize, oh, now I got to really pour into the customer service. We're in the entertainment business, right? So we are entertaining our clients. And if we think that the workout in and of itself is the only and the most important thing, we are not hitting the mark. That's important. That's an ingredient in the process. That's an ingredient in the cake, but there's a lot of other ingredients. So that would be, I guess, my foundation. So I'm just very, very excited for you, and this is why our new franchise partners are just launching in such incredible ways. So, I would just understand the value of your team, the value of the culture, the value of the retention, the value of relationships. Understand the value of your clients are coming in for a workout to get a good workout, but they're actually coming if you want to keep them long term for an experience. Okay, you're creating the magic. We provide some presentations in the academy around. We're here in Disneyland in our backyard. They have the most magical experience, the most magical place on earth. And actually, I'll share a story. Some of us here from Southern California are going to know, but most of you won't, especially if you're from Louisiana and Oregon. There's a place called Knott's Berry Farm, and Knott's Berry Farm is very close to here. Have you heard and downloaded that training?
My dad grew up right next to it.
Oh, there we go. So Knott's Berry Farm and Disneyland are actually it's probably half an hour from here. They're only 10 miles apart. In fact, when you're driving, okay, in the summertime, across the Knott's Berry Farm exit, you can see the Disney fireworks. Okay, this is how close they are. We went to invested a training for our leadership team. This is about a year and a half before COVID. We went to Disney and we learned from them. One of the Disney executives, okay, in the particular training, talked about the stats, okay, between both Disney and Knott's Berry Farm. As it turns out, Knott's Berry Farm had twice the rides. Okay, in his estimation, the rides were actually even better than the ones at Disney. He listed all these credentials for the favor of Knott's Berry Farm, but then also showcased the revenue and the vacancy rates, okay, were way higher than Disney, okay? At any given time during the course of the year, about half of the major hotels' vacancy rate was open, meaning, they had 50% vacancy, where in Disneyland, 1% vacancy on every night. So it was counterintuitive. You're hearing all these stats about these amazing rides and the volume of rides. But then on the flip side, Disney just crushes it in terms of revenue and experience. And what's the difference? And his response is, well, Knott's Berry Farm, they don't sell magic. They're just focused just on the rides. And for a long time, it was just focused just on the training. Okay? But it's not just the training, it's the whole experience. So in any case, hopefully that helps.
That's a great manager right there.
Question. So as transfer owners, and we're bringing this in, we've talked to the Chris's, we talked to Jake and John as well. I just kind of want to see where you're at there. Coming into it's kind of a financial mess.
Yeah.
Memberships are all over the board. And once again, we're looking to change, not only through clients and coaches. What are the best steps to kind of bring everybody up to that level, especially when you're talking memberships, having to bring clients up to a certain level? There's going to be a certain amount of attrition. We're going to lose clients because it's like, well, I've been paying this forever. Now you want to raise my fees? How do you do that? What would that conversation look like to bring everybody up to a level to be able to give them the best experience possible?
Yeah. This is going to be probably an interesting piece of coaching, but in our particular business model, I'll be very cautious against that. And I know that from an alignment perspective, when you're thinking of a process perspective, but and also things are different in franchising. So just giving you full transparency, we started an franchise model, back in 2012, and the vast majority of our franchise partners, even to this day, are in flat-based royalties versus percentage-based royalties. But we changed the model 3 years ago, so all new locations coming through are in percentage-based, and that's the vision, which is actually a really big win long term because it creates more alignment and more incentive on both sides to pour into each other. That was actually a casualty or an unintended side effect of the old model, if you will. So in any case, all this to say is we're currently actually bringing up everyone that was paying lower royalties to a flat base across the board that are in the flat based. So all this to say is that we're in motion of doing that the franchise. However, the franchise business model is much different. Our agreements are 7 years, but our franchise partners stay from 7 to 14 plus years. From a business model perspective, very different than a gym where you have clients that stay 12 to 18 to 24 months. So from an emotional perspective, I think it'll be very challenging, especially from a client perspective, to really kind of latch on to the fact that their membership rate's going up. So this all to say, kind of just generally speaking, I'd love to kind of get a little bit more insight, probably off camera in terms of the details of how many are at this rate, so have some context. But just in a general kind of thought behind it, I think you'll face a lot of attrition on that, and especially with new change. I would, if the situation was me, knowing that most clients cycle out between 12 to 24 months, although our goal is to keep the retention farm, I would keep them grandfathered in and focus completely the new clients and bring them up to the rates, and that I think will ensure that your culture is strong at a very volatile time when you're new owners and you want to rock the boat as least as possible. So that's probably not the feedback that you want to hear on the front end, but I think that's going to be the feedback that's going to save you a lot of heartache on the back end.
You make us do what we have to
Make it happen, Chris.
Yeah, well, guys, remember that.
I got a question for you. When after we did sign the franchise agreement, well, even before that, we have to talk to you first. You have to conduct the interview and things like that. What are some of the things you look for, and why did you pick per se? Just the people that are in here. What are some of the things you look for when you're having that interview?
Like light in the eyes. Do they research? Have they looked at the Fit Body Bootcamp model? Are they looking at the Fit Body Bootcamp model specifically for the business model, or do they see other aspects in it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so counterintuitive. I've seen many owners in the brand for some time, and the ones that do the best actually talk about the profit and loss and the details of the business model the least.
Yeah.
The ones that do the best are the ones who I'm fired up, I love community, I love people, I love changing lives, I love connecting. And those are the owners that when they pour that as their focus, then their businesses explode. So the opposite is also true. I've seen, because it's a passion-based business. It's not a transactional business. I think if I was a CEO of Subway, I'd probably look at it a little bit different. Because the level of training that you need to provide your employee, they need to be a sandwich artist. They need to know that, but they don't need to know the culture of the organization. They don't need to it's not dynamic. It's not a service. It's actually they're systematizing a product, which a product is way easier to systematize than a service, as an example. There's a lot more moving parts. So because a service product is harder to standardize, I look for, are they doing it for the right reasons? Because if you're doing it for the right reasons, the probability that you're going to be successful with the amount of team and structure we have is very high. If you're not doing it for the right reasons, I think it's going to be a disservice to all.
Do you ever tell anybody no?
Yes.
That was my next question. Yeah, I had to know that.
It's actually a big heartache, because in the back end, even though it's, and this is important for you as well, you should fire clients from time to time. And that sounds like, wait, what? Okay, and of course you're not telling them, hey, you're fired, okay, like Donald Trump style. But you give them the gift of good advice, free up their future, and really,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. Free up your future.
Free up their future, and I think that's important because a bad client can actually create a big culture drag on your location, for sure. And the cost of that client is way higher than the amount of money they're paying you.
Yeah.
Way higher than the money paying. So I retract my, initial coaching. If there's specific clients that you need to bring up that, hey, are not falling in line because they're cancer to the culture, then increasing their price point might not be a bad idea, because they're probably going to jump ship, as an example. And that's a very indirect, soft way to do that. If they take you up on your offer, then you're like, oh shoot, now I'm making more money. Know what I'm going to do. So. But I think that's really important, and I've had to do it probably a handful of times. So it's not something that you have to do, with any sort of frequency. Most people, are great, but some are not. And you're dealing with the public, and most times they kind of see themselves out. But protecting your culture is the number one. And sometimes, there's probably once a year I'll have a call where Jake's like, yeah, this client has to go. And ultimately, we have a conversation, and that's super important. And how we frame that conversation isn't like, hey, we need you to leave. It's a check-in. It's a heart-to-heart. Hey, Christopher, are you really happy? It just doesn't seem, for whatever reason, I've heard some interaction from our coaches, but actually our clients, some of them complain just about, you have a negative attitude, doesn't seem like you want to be here. So I just genuinely want to check in, how are you? Is everything okay? And, is there maybe a better fitness program that can support you on your goals better? And I've had a handful of conversations like that. So flipping that back to our franchise partners' perspective, that's equally as important as well, because it takes a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears and energy to get a business off the model of the ground. And running a business is way more complex than getting into shape. That's the reality of the situation. And getting in shape is hard, okay, but it's pretty simple in the grand scheme of things. It's not easy, but it's simple. Okay, you just work out a few times a week. You get a coach, and you focus on your nutrition. Our program is actually very simple. Okay, when you break it down. And we've tried to, and we continue to develop, making a business model even more simple for our brand. That's what I'm obsessed with, and my team obsessed with on a day-to-day basis. But there's still moving parts in that, right? So for us to bring a franchise partner that you can tell isn't in it for the right reasons, it actually creates a bigger long-term mess, and the juice is not worth the squeeze. And that's the same mentality that you should have within your locations, and you should never be afraid to fire a client if you need it. And free up their future is a bit better way to put it. But you should never be afraid to free up a client's future, because your culture is your number one retention tool. your number one retention tool.
Same thing goes for the coaches and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah.
If you have a coach that's not what's that? Yeah, that's not being part of the team, or is not playing
Oh yeah.
well with the team.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's way more common within our business than having a client in that position, because usually the client, will cause a ruckus for a little bit and then just usually leave, see themselves out. The teammate, maybe not so much, and sometimes they quietly quit for an extended period of time before they actually real quit. Meaning like they're on their payroll, they're going through the motions, but they've really checked out. So that is by far the most commonality. And it's super important. Unfortunately, it's a part of the business. I don't think, speaking for myself or everyone in this table, you're not like, hey, I want to launch a passion-based fitness business, help a lot of people, and fire a lot of coaches. Like, just don't do that. You're not in that business for a reason. So it's not a fun part of the business, but it's extremely important. The way I look at it, and this is something that my brother Barrett said a while back, and it's so true, that in a situation like this, if you're coaching, if you poured it into them, if you've asked them, genuinely speaking, like, hey, how are you? Like, it doesn't seem like things are going, and you should have a monthly check-in with them, right? And if all the effort that you've put in is still not materializing, and for example, if John and Jake, if they come back and say like, hey, a new intern Mary was not doing well, and after specific coaching, I'm not going to keep Mary on the team at the sacrifice of Jake and John, because eventually they're gonna be like, I don't like working with this person, and I'm gonna be out. Like, no, that's not, that can't happen. So, after you've really kind of checked in and made sure, that you've done everything in your power, then you have to give them the goodbye. And if you don't do this, and I guess the point that I was articulating, really, this is an interesting way to look at it, but what you're doing to your clients is saying, hey, clients, I don't care about your experience enough that I'm not willing to have a tough conversation with someone that I need to let go. That's actually what you're saying without saying it. So even though it's very hard to do, you just got to suck it up and say, hey, listen, for the better of my team, the better of my clients, I have to address this issue, and I've had to do it here many times, unfortunately, and that's just the reality of the situation. That's how I look at it as well. If I'm not willing to make a hard decision, have a hard conversation, I'm looking all of you in the eye and saying, I don't care about your experience enough, or I care about my own ego enough that I'm not willing to have a hard conversation for your benefit. Hopefully
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's super important. Thank you. And your clients will too, for you.
No, yeah, for sure.
Have you ever fired bosses, like owners? Have you ever said, I'm getting a lot of feedback?
Close down a little bit.
Yeah. Have you ever taken it back? Have you ever?
We have. It's not common, and I can only think of two particular situations that's happened, and it was not for lack of performance. It was something egregious that ultimately was not a good representation on the brand. And ultimately we have a duty, obligation, responsibility to protect the brand at all costs, even if it does mean removing an owner. We've had to do it 2 times to my knowledge. Thankfully it doesn't happen much, and it was a very kind of egregious situation, but we needed to do it for that reason. Man, I'm just fired up. You guys, just your energy, your connectivity, like hearing back from Jake and John and the Chris's, like they just said, this class was just, really, really dialed in, just full of energy and eagerness. So, I'm very grateful that you guys have shown up in this way, and just my hope is that you've gotten a lot from this particular training, and this is just going to be the foundation. This is just a springboard. It's just getting started, my friends.
It's exciting just to see what we're going to go through, and just excited just to open and just be Jake and John. And just it's exciting. Something to look forward to.
It warms my heart, and it's not the first time I've heard it, and hopefully it won't be the last. In fact, I hear it every single class, and that's the standard that you want to be able to execute. And the good news, though, is it's interesting, like human nature. We all go through these hesitancies and doubts, but so many times our OSC owners are like, I just hope in a million years I can find someone like Jake and John, and I'm saying yes, you can. Like not only can you find them, but you need to develop them, and you will. Like human nature's good. I mean, certainly human nature. There's a dark side as well, but there are awesome humans in your community that just want to do good, that want to help people, and with our support and your action, you're going to develop them, and you're just going to have an awesome team of people. In fact, I was just up in Sacramento, which I'll give you guys a little download, which is just an awesome experience, and it's really cool. I've had the opportunity to probably drop in about 25 or 30 locations over the last couple of years, and I know many coaches, not only owners but coaches in the brand as well, and the team of Rancho Cordova Cordova, which is it's a suburb in Greater Sacramento, and it's just they were just on fire. Their team was just jacked up, ready to go, and they were just Jake and John's like just doing the thing on the mic yesterday, and that's the value of like the system, the process that we've built. I was like so impressed. Like the energy on the mic was just on point, and probably a handful of years ago that wouldn't have been the case, but stepping into that location was super cool, and just more proof and reassurance that you're going to be able to replicate the exact same thing. Just as long as you have that growth mindset, you're coachable, you continue to swim towards the proverbial HQ helicopter, and you're passionate about people and fitness, which you all have in spades. You can just see it, you can feel it, which is incredible. But yeah, going back yesterday, it was an awesome trip. Very, very long day. I was out the door at 4:30, and then I made it back just before midnight. My man Pablo was cranking away with me, and we got out there. The Fox producer ended up picking us up. We had breakfast, and he showed us a little bit around Sacramento, and then we went over to the Fox station and just kind of prepped up. He gave us the white glove service, met all the producers, which was really fun. And then Liz and James, who are two owners, they've been in the brand for about a handful of years now. Great salt of the earth people. They met us at location, and Liz is kind of success story within Fit Body. She lost 50 pounds, and then her and her husband were inspired to launch their own location. So we did a full 7-minute segment. It was kind of called Fox 40 or Studio 40. And just talked a little bit about the Fit Body brand in general, just about what separates us and all that. So it was a great piece of content, and they asked specifically about what the giving back kind of philosophy at Fit Body was, and I just hit on the food battle, and that was really cool. And the value of the brand is we were able to produce a lot of content last year, like videos and pictures from all of our locations submitting in. So then they did B-roll of okay, as I'm talking about the Fit Body food battle, we have nearly 300 partner locations. We donated 100,000 food items last year. Our goal is 250,000 this year. They were showing all the the videos and the pictures from last year, and just tons of food, all of Fit Body. It was super cool. So that was a really fun segment, and the hosts were great. And then after that, I transitioned and shot a 30-second commercial, which is going to be distributed on all of, I guess, Fox's local kind of news within the streaming services that they have affiliations with, just for more brand awareness. And it's such a great concept that CJ Workcamp, who's one of our franchise business coaches, CAP coaches in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, he had this vision for the client engagement calendar, which, by the way, the value of our brand is, I'm your CEO, and you're visionary, and yes, I've been able to provide a lot of innovations and value to our organization, but I'm just one guy. I have a stacked team in the reality of the situation, humbling myself. And the reality of the situation is we have ideas coming from all different angles, and we have an agile testing process where now new ideas come through. We test it, vet it, make sure that the initiative is going to be strong, and then we push it out brand wide. But never in a million years would I had the vision or thought for a client engagement calendar. But CJ Workcamp in Sioux Falls is cranking away, helping build Fit Body. Great, we're going to grab that idea. We're going to grab this great idea from you, and a rising tide raises all ships. And that's why with our force together and our particular mentality and how we source great ideas from our brand, because you're going to have a lot of incredible ideas as well that we want to hear, and that we really want to encourage you, empower you to talk with your CAP coaches and push those through. So this is a classic example of the client engagement calendar and the Fit Body food battle. So I was able to hit that commercial yesterday, and it'll be distributed. And the best part about it is consistency compounds. So last year we got 100,000 food items. Whether we hit 250,000 or not, it's going to be bigger. And then also what's going to happen is next year we're going to get the news again, and we're going to provide scripts now for all of you to reach out to your news. Then when they see other locations in different parts of the country on the news, oh sure, we're going to want to get you on Houston, Texas, or Riverside, California. So these are just little things over the course of time will continue to compound. So it was a great experience. And then after that, we went to Rancho Cordova's Fit Body's location, which is in Greater Sacramento, about 20 minutes from the shoot. And Pablo was there. Robert Linkle, who is kind of our coach of the coaches for our Fit Body Forever program. You haven't probably heard too much about him yet, but he's also working with Fit Body now to build a coaching the coaches course. Okay, so not only from a cultural perspective do we have the new coaches onboarding playbook, but actually from one of the best, and highest authorities from kinesiology, from human movement, who's based in Sacramento, and just a friend of our organization and working with us, was able to connect with him. And that course that's going to be built out for 2024. So your new coaches are going going to get a really, really good access to that. So invited him there, and we worked out together. And my first fitness mentor, which is really cool. And maybe some of you probably heard my story. Many of you maybe haven't. But when I moved out west, one of my best friends from college, his name was Adam. He was my first fitness mentor. He had the six-pack abs, the glistening muscles. All the girls loved him, and I latched on his coaching. And this is in early 2007, before FitBody was a thing. And he really introduced me to what we do at FitBody, like lifting weights, circuit training, clean nutrition. And I hit this a few, I guess on Sunday night's dinner. But getting a chance to work out with him was kind of very serendipitous and full circle. And yeah, it's just an awesome experience. And back in the saddle here with you guys debriefing, and the amount of energy and the light in your eyes I feel is just absolutely incredible. So I'm just beyond the moon grateful, and just grateful for you to be a part of the organization, trusting us as your coaches. And I just see so much potential in this particular room. It's just gonna be awesome. So,
What's your vision within the next 5 years? Where do you see FitBody going in 5 years?
yeah, I mean, to the moon, to the absolute moon. I mean, we have metrics in terms of like locations and all that, but that's actually not even important. My big vision, kind of going back to the levels, okay, the levels of growth at your location, like my vision is to create so much structure and so much support that just FitBody naturally grows because of like the success that we're having, because of all the locations are so dialed in. So we went on a journey a handful of years ago to kind of shift away from the anti-franchise franchise model to like a proper aligned model, and it's been very hard. Change is hard. Change is leadership, right? But we've done an incredible amount of job in a short period of time. We still have a ways to go, but in many ways, it's interesting. It's like not only consistency compounds, but there's a saying in Brazilian Portuguese: money calls money. Meaning, like, when you become more successful, you become more successful, right? Money calls money. Yeah. And like where we're at as a brand right now is like money is calling money. Like, we're just going to get more successful, as the infrastructure in particular grows. So my vision is, all of our locations will have 2 locations, be thriving, in their businesses. And there's just still even though we've come so far, there's just still so much innovation and support that we continue to provide. And I just feel blessed, hanging out with my team here, my leadership team, between Barrett and Joel. Barrett looks at the business very, very uniquely, very differently. And it's great too that my seat is where I should be in the seat. His seat is where he should be on the seat. And same with my other leadership team. He has an eye for coaching, movement, and from a structural perspective that's so strong that I just know that we'll just continue. We haven't even in many ways broke through the or scratch the surface, if you will, of really the value from a training and a client experience, even though we've come a far away. So that's really putting a bow on Oscar. Like, that's my vision, to continue to provide so much more support and structure that in that same analogy of level 5, FitBody just organically grows because our franchise partners in your locations are so successful.